And go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Miles. It's good to be here. My name is Brian Cho. I'm Senior Development Manager with Holland Partner Group. We're a local developer based in Vancouver, Washington, and we are presenting a proposed project here located at the northeast intersection of Tile Flat Road and Scholls-Ferry Road. Dean Masukawa with LRS Architects will be sharing the screen. We also have Matt Dreska with LRS Architects, Kevin Brady with OTAC Planning. I don't know if you can see her, but Melissa McFerrin is our Director of Construction with Holland Construction, and she is with us as well. So that's the team presenting tonight. I'll be doing most of the talking, and I'll hand it over to the architect at certain points. We have a very simple presentation tonight. Wanted to just highlight some visuals across 5 slides. And so here, just the vicinity map. You're all the neighbors here, so you know where this is. But it's at the northeast corner of Tile Flat and Scholls-Ferry. To the right of the slide, we wanted to give some context as to where this project is located. It's where that word south is. So we are the south phase within this planned unit development. We are the only multifamily within this community, and it's surrounded by those lots, which are future single family development. And then that photo in the bottom right is just a perspective looking towards that corner in its current state. Yeah. So we wanted to share the concept site plan here. So this is what we've worked on in terms of planning the space and where we intend to put buildings. So I guess first we'll take a look at the info on the right-hand side in that box. We're looking at 216 units proposed here. The total site area is 11.4849 acres. The buildable area is smaller than that, and that's due to that large green area, which is the wetland that currently exists, which includes an irrigation pond. Yeah, Dean, if you can maybe zoom in on that, that would be great.
Sure. On the matrix or on the area here?
Yeah, you can focus on the site plan now. So the zoning R1, it's a residential zoning. And so what we're proposing in terms of the 216 units is exactly what was planned here. So we're not asking for anything more than what it's already been approved for. So really we're looking to present this design to the city as part of our land use application for design review. And you can see, so there are 8 residential buildings on the site, which include the 216 units. About half of those are 2-bedroom units, a quarter roughly are 1-bedroom units, and then another quarter of the units are 3- and 4-bedroom units. So we believe this will be a really attractive site for people to live. It's beautiful out there. We intend to enhance what's already out there. And so that building in the middle of the site plan, it looks a little pixelated, a little ghost of a building there. That's a single-story clubhouse that's intended to house a leasing office and amenities for this community. You see that blue rectangle, that's an outdoor swimming pool and an outdoor spa. The building includes, in addition to the leasing office, there's a fitness room, mail room. There's a great room, which typically has a fireplace and a lounge and some tables and chairs for people to relax and do work if they so choose. The buildings themselves are 3 stories. They're wood frame. They're walk-up buildings, so they have open breezeways with stairs, so people can access their units on all 3 levels. And there's a lot of green space here, so we haven't planned the locations yet, but there will be other amenities, maybe playground, some other active outdoor uses on site. We are located at this site on the edge of the urban growth boundary. So to our west is the Grange. In order to respect that boundary from development within the urban growth boundary to the more rural uses, there is an enhanced landscape buffer that is required along, I believe, that 20-foot buffer along the west property line there. So there will be trees, shrubs, ground cover in an enhanced fashion that will allow for an orderly transition from this development, which obviously is new to this area and this immediate location, and sort of be able to soften that edge so it's not so abrupt. I think we can move on to the next slide for now.
Mm-hmm. I might add to that, Brian, that so we're not allowed to actually access off of Tile Flat Road and Scholls-Ferry to the site. So we are kind of weaving into the existing fabric that's already planned for the northern neighborhood around us. And our access is going to be here on the north side. You can see a continuous loop and then coming back out to the other side. So we're really married up to what's already planned there for our parcel.
Yeah, actually, Dean, if you can just stay on there 1 second. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a really important point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in terms of access in and out of the site, again, to echo what Dean said, no direct access off of Scholls-Ferry or Tile Flat. Strobel Road is off the page to the right. Actually, it's right there, north-south. So that's built out. There is the traffic light already built. We envision that a lot of the traffic in and out is going to be at that location and through internal roads that lead to that north main driveway that Dean had pointed out.
Mm-hmm. And it's some of the amenities. I know Holland is very good at providing amenities for their communities that they've designed, and it's still in design. However, there's a few places that we are taking a look at, perhaps here, or here, that's central to the site that will create a more of a community or living room for the 216 units, kind of adjacent to our community building. But we're also providing an access to and building out a trail here. It looks like there's a connecting network, but this will provide a nice walking path adjacent to the wetlands, and kind of really incorporate that into our community. So we're not really turning our back to that.
Yeah, so this is an example of an elevation that we've worked on for one of the building types. Like I said, there are maybe I didn't say that yet. So there are 8 buildings on site that are residential. There are 4 building types total. And so this is just one representative building. We didn't show all 4. And there may be some variations among the 4 types, but this gives a good idea of the design that we're going for. You see the gable ends, you see the gables that are featured prominently on the long elevation as well as on the end elevation. We wanted to emphasize and sort of echo some of the designs that you may see existing and that are more contextual to this location. And maybe I'll turn it over to either Dean or Matt to talk a little bit more about what you're seeing here.
Sure. Maybe I'll go ahead and have Matt speak to this one here. Maybe talk about materials and where we're using them.
Yeah, so looking at the site currently and adjacent properties and all the context, it's out there, right? So we're kind of in the country and farmland and in some other older buildings that have board and bat, horizontal siding, gable roofs. We know that this area will change, but we also want to not forget about that and harken back to the history here. So we have more traditional stylings here, not super contemporary, that fit in. So you can see there's a base for the first floor, paying homage to kind of the low Copper Mountain. That's one of the lower mountains in the greater Portland area, Beaverton, and then on top of that, going with the more traditional board and bat and horizontal siding. And again, that as Brian pointed out, we've got the gable ends, we've got some hipped roofs as well. So these are all pretty traditional type roof elements. And we were trying to break up the verticality of it as well, with some banding on that end elevation as well, and to add more intrigue. And we do have the shadows turned on here as well to show depth. There are a fair amount of ins and outs to this, and you can see, with the planes of the roof and with the shadows, we wanted to break it down, right? We didn't want it to be that full 200-foot length of just building, right? We wanted something more broken down, something more palatable to people living there, at the ground level, that is very residential and not too overbearing, and that fits contextually into the site and what it's going to be in the future.
Thanks, Matt. And I'll just close out with that we really stress permanent and durable materials and premium materials. So similar to a James Hardie product, so fiber cement siding and then simulated stone. Let's see, next slide. I don't usually do the full screen, so here we go. These next two slides are some illustratives of how that might look. On the left-hand side here is that building that you just saw, kind of an artist rendering of it. This would be a view at Tile Flat Road in Scholls-Ferry. You can see that there's an enhanced vegetative buffer that we're providing, that Brian mentioned, along Tile Flat Road here. You can see the 3-star buildings and beyond. Here, this is an example of a product that Holland has built in the past and is doing beautifully well in Camas. 3-story garden apartments. The clubhouse, an illustrative of the clubhouse, and an example of the clubhouse that's built in Camas. And next page. Again, more examples of projects that are similar in nature and that this might follow suit. You can see the materials, how they're used, the elevations are broken up. So it's not like Matt said, a flat 200-foot building. We really take advantage, really try to stress ins and outs and breaking it down to scale. So it looks like a bigger house, okay? And this would be a view of what it would look like if you're standing on one of the balconies looking at the site as it's laid out. And I think that brings us to the end of the slide deck. Back to you, Brian.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to point one other thing out in terms of the visuals that you see here. So these aren't the final colors. That's something that we haven't developed at this point or decided on. Just wanted to share with you what we had so far. And I think this gives a pretty good representation of the work we've done to date. So yeah, these images are not final, but they are representative of, in terms of form and shape.
Scale and massing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that, that's really the end of our formal presentation. I'm happy to open it up to anyone who has questions. I see one in the chat from Miles. How many parking spaces are planned? So that's something that we're finalizing. Off the top of my head, I want to say that one of our recent site plans had 384 parking stalls. It's probably more helpful to think of that in terms of a ratio to the number of units provided. And so that's it's just under 1.8. So I would say it's going to land somewhere north of 1.75 and just south of 1.8 per unit, which is a pretty healthy ratio. And we have a lot of experience with this type of apartment complex. And it's something that provides ample parking for the residents so that it doesn't provide stresses to other off-site parking areas to the extent they exist.
Thanks, Brian. I see we also have a question from Andrew. And let's see, Miles, can we unmute Andrew's microphone?
Be able to do it.
I was able to unmute it myself if that works.
Great.
Had a couple of questions. Number one, you just only presented on the multifamily. You mentioned single family residential, that part of this as well. Is that going to be a separate presentation? So that's question number one. And then second thing was kind of I had two more comments. Actually, why don't I just get an answer to that first question, then I have two comments.
Yeah, so if I'm typing or trying to paraphrase in the chat, and I don't know if you're able to see that, but so
Yes.
we're just presenting on the multifamily. The single family it is under control of a different developer. So we don't have any influence over that. That's just
okay. Great. Thank you for the clarification. I had two quick comments, which you can just take under advisement. Number one, I'm hoping, given the rural character of the area, that I forget how many number of parking spaces you said there would be, but from a visual perspective, as you're driving out Scholls-Ferry Road into the wine country, it'd be really nice if you didn't drive out Scholls-Ferry and see large surface parking lots. So I'm hoping that the buildings will be massed along Scholls-Ferry and Tile Flat and Strobel Road, and that all the parking will be on the interior. I can't really see the screen that well. Oh, that's a little better. I was able to sort of zoom it out. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks like you got the buildings oriented to the street, and that's a good thing, because again, I don't like the notion of driving down a pretty arterial like Scholls-Ferry Road and looking at giant surface parking lots. So the other comment I was going to make to flag for you, I'm going to be bringing this up with Beaverton Traffic Engineering. I don't know what your right-of-way dedication or frontage improvements will be along Scholls-Ferry, but I'd really like to see a vertical separation between not only pedestrians, but also bicyclists on Scholls-Ferry Road, with the vehicular traffic, particularly the trucks that go on Scholls-Ferry Road. So at the appropriate time, I will be submitting a recommendation to traffic engineering that they think about something along the lines of a 12-foot multi-use path along the north side of Scholls-Ferry that would be vertically separated from traffic, rather than the traditional treatment, which is an in-lane bike lane within a sidewalk behind it. So I just wanted to give a heads up on that and just make that comment.
Yeah, thank you. My understanding is that sort of in that white space along that green background along the south and west property line on that site plan you see there, it's a 14-foot wide multi-use path is what the city calls it, which does include bike lane and sidewalk. I don't know a lot about it. We're not building it. It's actually permitted by the single family developer to our north. And the reason for that is, as part of the land use approval, the first phase of this community to develop would be responsible for those improvements.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it's a condition of the land division.
Yeah.
So if you had the information, I'm happy to put something in the chat. Well, I think you have my email address. If you wouldn't mind just putting me in touch with that other developer, I'd love to just follow up with them. I mean, it sounds like the multi-use path may be what's already been scoped, in which case that's great. I just know that traditionally Beaverton has relied on bike lanes next to 40-45 mile an hour traffic, and it's not a very comfortable cycling environment for people on bikes.
Right. Yeah, understandable.
Andrew, if I could clarify quickly for you, Southwest Scholls-Ferry Road and Tile Flat Road are county roads, so they're under the control of the county's design specifications. So you'd want to direct your comments and your concerns to the county traffic engineers rather than the cities.
I appreciate that clarification. I sort of begged the question, if it's under county control, then why would a city of Beaverton and neighbors Southwest NAC be involved if this is Washington County? Maybe that's a question for Allison. So
yeah, the land's within the city, but the streets are owned by those two streets are owned by the county. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all squared away now. Thank you very much.
Brian, just a point of clarification, the single family development you referenced, with Andrew's question, is that what we are seeing in the top left-hand left corner here?
Yeah, that's right. So that's a little part of it. So really what you're seeing there is just circulation in terms of streets. Dean, if you go to the first slide, yeah, so that's really more, and this may be slightly outdated, but this was part of the land use application back in, I want to say 2017, for the developer of the entire planned unit development. And so you see the delineation of all of those single family lots to our north. And yeah, that it just gives context to what planned for the entire area.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is us. Right? This is us right here.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying. So just so it's clear for everyone, the traffic flow plan is being shared by your proposal and a single family development that is not there yet, correct?
Yeah, so they're actually the first mover, so to speak. And so that area that's labeled east is actually the first one that's, I mean, shovels are already in the ground, so to speak. They're doing a lot of earth work, as I'm sure a lot of you have noticed as you drive by. And so a lot of the work is concentrated kind of around where that word east is stamped on this drawing here, sort of the right-hand side of that phase.
Okay. And then I had another clarification question on one of your later slides, the preserved green space. Can you tell us more about that? Is that under Metro's jurisdiction, or is that a?
Yeah, so that's an existing wetland that's already been delineated. So it's already been identified as a wetland, and as part of the land use approvals that have already been approved, it has been, I don't know what the term is. So the Department of State Lands is the Oregon state jurisdiction for the wetlands. And so they've already taken a look at the delineation and approved it. So it's on our property. If once we purchase the property, it would be on our property. We're going through a process with Clean Water Services to get a certain scope of work approved. And what we believe needs to happen here is just an enhancement of what they call the vegetated corridor. So really it's just, if there are areas that are deteriorated or don't have enough plantings per a certain standard, that we would be enhancing the plant. It's really just planting plants in that area to make sure it's in good condition. What we're trying to do is not do a lot of work in that area to not disturb the natural features that are already there. So just in short, we're enhancing what's already there. We're not proposing to build anything in there. And on top of that, we're going to build that section of that trail, which is that 12-foot wide path, which will be available to the public for recreation.
Okay, thank you. I do echo Andrew's comment earlier about having really great green space, a green buffer along Scholls-Ferry and Tile Flat, since those will be highly trafficked roads moving forward. I agree with Andrew that the visual of that is very important. If there's a way to really optimize that green buffer, and also for the residents living in those buildings, who are their bed is right next to all of that traffic. So if there is a way to optimize that even further moving forward, I think that would be really beneficial for everyone.
Yep. Totally agree with that. I mean, I think we all understand what's special about this location, and we want to be respectful of that. And yeah, we want to keep what is great about the area.
I saw a couple more hands. Let's see. Andrew, do I see your hand up?
Yeah, Allison, I was going to let other people go first, but since you called on me, I'll make this quick. I'm going to be a little shameless here and ask our developer neighbors. You know, I noticed that the Grange Hall across the street has a fairly dilapidated barn next to it. And, you know, I think that barn is really one of the very distinctive features there in that area. I just would your development firm give any consideration to maybe getting a grant to get that barn kind of restored to its historical heyday? I think that would be a wonderful blending of the old and the new, if maybe some funds could be brought to bear to fix up that barn on the north side of Tile Flat Road. So hope you don't mind me putting in that plug.
No, not at all. It's an interesting idea. I've had a similar thought myself, just personally. If there is, I'm not aware of the group that runs the Grange or owns the Grange. If anyone has the contact for that group or individual, I would be happy to receive it.
I'd be happy to reach out, get your contact information. I don't know the Grange personally, but I'd be happy to reach out, identify that individual, and maybe facilitate a little meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. I also see a hand from Gary. Hi, Gary.
There. Just by chance, just so the group knows, I've been involved with the Boy Scout troop there that meets at the Kitten Grange for about the last 8 years. And the Grange doesn't own that house. It's the neighbor next door who just built that house. And he's actually taken that thing down. We see him working on it a lot each week when we're going to meetings, but I don't know the name of the gentleman. So I just know it's not the Kitten Grange. But I had just a question for Brian. Has your group met with the planning department for the park district? I actually work for the park district. I'm the design and development manager, and we're working with most of the developers in the community here when it comes to the trail work. So have you reached out to our planning department yet?
So we in terms of outreach to the city, we have participated in a pre-application conference. So specifically with Parks and Recreation on an individual basis, no, but to the extent that Parks and Rec was represented at the pre-app, yes.
Okay, all right. That's all I had.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware, but the Parks and Rec District is a separate government entity. It's not within the city. And I don't believe they were at the pre-app. I don't remember seeing a representative there.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian, a lot of the developers are coming to the district to build the trails to our standards and then asking us to take them on for maintenance and whatnot. So I don't know if this trail you're showing is on our plan to do that. There's a comp plan that shows which trails we're going to own. But our planning department would be the one that would start that discussion. So Janine Rested is the planning manager. If you want to get a hold of her.
Yeah, thank you. And Kevin Brady with OTAC Planning is on the call right now. And so I'm sure he's taking a note down. And we'll be sure to coordinate.
You bet.
Thank you, Gary, for those comments. Appreciate it. I had a question. It was mentioned earlier in the presentation. It was a reminder that this area has historically been farmland. And I was curious, in the discussions that your team has had about the central community space or the shared community space, is there plans for something like a community garden as a way to somewhat in a smaller way continue that that tradition?
No, but that's a good idea. So yeah, we can definitely take that suggestion and talk internally and see if that's something we might be able to include here. A lot of that will come down to sort of our experience in other locations, maybe other similar locations, and if we've had success doing that. But I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, that is an interesting idea. I mean, I've done before is had some garden boxes outside the community room or community center or something that's adjacent to there that the community can use. The challenge there, it gets pretty strange in the wintertime when everything dies, but I think that'd be a nice amenity. So thanks for that suggestion.
Thank you for considering it. Let's see, do we have any other? I don't see any hands raised on this end, but if we have anyone, I'm not sure if anyone's joining by phone. I'm not seeing anyone by phone on my end, but just in case there is someone on the phone and they would like to ask a question or raise their hand, it's *9. In the meantime, Brian, could you let us know what your anticipated timeline is for your application?
Yeah, sure. So we're working hard to submit an application in terms of, so I don't want to make any representations in terms of the city's process, just because there's some variability there. I'll give you sort of broad stroke milestones that we're hoping to hit. That will probably be more relevant to the community. So in terms of construction start, we would like to start construction here, let's say June of 2022, so middle of this coming year. If construction starts then and goes according to plan, we would anticipate completing the clubhouse and maybe the first residential building 12 months after that. So June of 2023. And then overall, a project of this size would likely complete. So last building completing, sorry, I'm just doing math in my head here. So 6 months after June of 2023. So that would be end of
the year.
Yeah. So that's the sort of general outline of what we're hoping to hit in terms of construction milestones.
And when do you plan to formally submit to the city so that folks have an idea of when this would go before Planning Commission?
Yeah, we are aiming to submit an application end of November, let's call it. End of November, early December.
Miles, could you please remind us, once a developer submits an application, what is the timeline from that point to when it would go towards Planning Commission?
It depends, but once they've submitted their application and it's been deemed complete by the city or by the applicant themselves, meaning they believe they've got everything that they need to go forward submitted, the city has 180 days to have the Planning Commission meeting and issue a final written decision. I don't know off the top of my head how long it's taking to get on Planning Commission. There's a lot of development going on, but by law, the city only has 180 days.
Okay, thank you for that. And just info for our attendees or people who are watching this later, once an application is formally submitted to the city, that those projects are available on the city's website, and you can look at development projects out by NAC. So you can find your NAC and look at what's happening. And so you can track the application process there also. And once the Planning Commission meeting is set, that date will be noticed there also if you weren't within the 500 feet radius to actually receive the mailed notice. So when it does come before Planning Commission, and if you have further comments at that time, that's another opportunity for community feedback also. Brian, I had a livability question on the, where would I take my dog out to use the restroom?
Yeah, so there's a network of sidewalks that we have internal to the multifamily proposed site plan here. Our operations team is good about providing stations for bags, for waste, and to drop that off for collection as well. We've had other similar sites where we've included a dog run as a community amenity. And so that's a possibility here. We just haven't gotten that far into the design for specific amenities and where they're located, but that's something we would certainly consider. It's important to us and our neighbors that we plan for that accordingly. And that's really, you know, something that enhances the livability of, like you said, Allison, the livability of this this community.
Yeah, I agree. The dog run's a great idea. I think that would be well received. And one more question. You had mentioned that these are open walk-ups. So for accessibility purposes, I'm guessing that there are no elevators. Is that correct?
That's correct. So yeah, we are required to provide full, all the ground floors have to be some kind of adaptability. And so all the units will have on the ground floors. You can, you know, roll right into the units. Upper floors, obviously you just have stairs.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And I see we have a raised hand from Tanya.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. So I'm Tanya Steele. I have the farm across the road, Lone L Farm. So I would, I think, just like to echo about things for dogs, because I grow Christmas trees and I would not want people taking your nice nature trail across the street down Vandermost onto my property to let their dogs run wild if possible. So I would second hoping for some good dog facilities within your development.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that concern.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. And Tanya, did you have an additional question? All right.
No, sorry, I just have to lower my hand. I was muting first.
Thank you. And Brian, could you just clarify, since it's a little difficult to tell on the renderings, how much space, how many feet is actually between that easement or setback between the actual road, let's say Scholls-Ferry Road, and the building?
Sorry, so you're talking about the distance between buildings along Scholls-Ferry Road and
the road.
Okay.
Could you just kind of give us an estimate?
Yeah, so Dean, if you can speak to the setback requirement from the
Yeah, we're setting those buildings you're talking about right here. We're setting those buildings back about 10 feet. You can see there's a setback line that we're honoring on this side here. On the west side against Tile Flat Road, we have what do they call that? The enhanced vegetated buffer. So we have 20 feet setback, and you can see that we're honoring that and not getting any closer to that with our buildings.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. As you can see, because our buildings undulate in and out vertically, there are places that were really set back even further from that setback within the building. Sorry, Brian.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and then to those distances, you would add the multi-use path width of 14 feet, which would further separate the buildings from the actual road surface itself.
Correct.
So why is there no enhanced vegetative buffer along Scholls-Ferry? Why is it only on Tile Flat Road?
I think it's in response to sort of the thinking in terms of east-west, the edge of the urban growth boundary. I think that's why. I don't know why there was no enhanced buffer along the south. There will be landscaping along there. So even if there is not an enhanced landscape buffer requirement, there will be landscaping along that edge.
Okay. Oh, and we have some comments from Sharon Dunham also. And Sharon says, if the application is incomplete, the applicant has 180 days.
If the application is complete, it's 120. If it's incomplete, it's 180, I believe. My foggy planning commissioner brain is is old.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Appreciate that. And question from Miles, do you all have a breakdown of the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units?
Yeah, Miles, were you looking for specific number of units, or would a rough percentage suffice?
A rough percentage would suffice. This question almost always gets asked for multifamily, so I thought I would throw it out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer that in the chat. So I had spoken to this earlier, but just to reiterate, it's roughly 50% 2-bedroom units. Sorry, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Roughly 50% 2-bedroom units, 25% 1-bedroom, and 25% 3 to 4 bedroom. I hope that makes sense as I hit enter on that chat.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any other questions or comments from attendees? I don't see any at this time. And Brian, if a community member is watching this meeting later and they have questions or comments, what is the best way to get in touch with your team?
Yeah, I would recommend you can email me. And I don't know the best way to do this. I can enter my email address in the chat, and I can also say it out loud.
That's great.
So let me first type it in, and then I'll spell it out. So my email address is bcho@hollandpartnergroup.com. Holland Partner Group is all one word, HOLLANDPARTNERGROUP.com. That's a really long email address, but bcho@Holland Partner Group, and you can email me, Brian Cho. That's Brian with an I.
Thanks, Brian. And could I ask you to please resend your email in the chat and choose send it to everyone instead of hosts and panelists? There's a little caret.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. That way everyone can see.
Yep. Hopefully you can all see that. Apologies, I'm not very good with Zoom.
We are all always learning Zoom. Thank you for reposting that. And let's see, to answer, so now Janet can see. Miles, will the chat and all the info, is that available also later on for folks? Or is it just the recording?
I can put it with the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Sharon has commented, she sees the chat, but she does not see the ellipsis to save the chat.
Yeah, so they'll be included under the minutes on the city's webpage.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other final questions or comments? Any other information that the development team would like to share?
No, I think we've shared what we have so far, and are thankful for your attendance here, and really valuable comments that we've received, and we'll definitely take into consideration.
Great. All right, Miles, do you have anything else for this agenda item?
Thank you for the presentation from the team there. I'll just say that the NAC will start holding regular meetings beginning in 2022. So if you're interested, please attend. They'll be every other month And I believe we're starting in January, but we haven't finalized that yet.
Yes, thank you, Miles. So if you are in Neighbor Southwest and you're interested in being involved on the NAC, please let us know, and we would love to talk further. So with that, I think we are done for this evening. And thank you again to our presentation team.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you for all of our attendees also for providing your input tonight.